What's good, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video. I'll be reacting to 3 creepy true beach horror stories. I don't have any beach things like that happen. I mean, I've been to beaches at night and stuff. Well, I remember when I was a kid, I went to a beach. I think it was the beach up here in Chicago, like downtown Chicago. I forget the name of it. I remember these had like guys out there playing the bongos. They still do that. But they come in, they closed the beach. And it was closed for I think a few years and they opened it back up. But I remember there was a shooting over there one time when I was over there. And well, this was when I was a kid. So my dad, mom, brothers over there, and we heard pop, 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 pop. And I think that was one reason why they closed it down, because it started having a lot of gang violence over there. So a lot of people stopped going. So they was like, we need the police start cracking down over there. They like want to search people's cars. They smell weed. They were searching. They any reason they were like, did you give us permission to search your car? If they smell anything, they had probable cause and they would search your car. Because it was people out there. I seen teens out there like drinking. They get alcohol, underage drink out there. And people like having sex. I remember one time I walked past a car and some people was like having sex in the back seat. It was crazy. Like, but I hear is they don't have that, because when I drove by there, well, my brother drove by there. I was in the car with him. And it was police. There was like bicycle cops. They were out there. It had to be at least 30 of them just standing out there, like going, like someone was going back and forth, and someone just standing out the front, because they place closes at a certain time. So I think they was getting ready to close, because it was almost 9 o'clock around. I think at that time. So I think they closed like 9:30 or something. Anyway, 3 creepy true beach horror stories. Here we go.
When I was in my senior year of high school, 17 years old, all that was on my and my friends' minds were girls. There was one girl in particular in my physics class that I was really into. Her name was Tiffany. Some guys called her Crazy Tiff because she was super hot, but also apparently really crazy according to her exes.
The crazy
That's
ones
irrelevant to the story though. Basically, my best friend CJ managed to get one of Tiffany's best friends, Gianna, to agree to come hang out at some beach with him and I that night, since it was a Friday and the weather was warm. The best part, Tiffany agreed to come with. This was it, my big chance with Crazy Tiff. CJ pulled up to my house at 10 o'clock that night. I hopped in shotgun and we went to pick up Tiffany and Gianna.
Never dated
On our
a
way
chick
there,
people
we agreed our
call
first priority was getting me
crazy
alone with Tiffany and CJ getting
first
alone
name.
with Gianna. I was extremely nervous, but when Tiffany and Gianna got in the car, things were actually going pretty smoothly. CJ and I managed to make them laugh a bunch of times. By the time we got to the beach, I was confident Tiffany and I would vibe really well alone. I don't remember the tiny details of what happened after we stepped out of the car and onto the dunes, but I do remember the beach being completely void of any other people, and CJ somehow managed to go off alone with Gianna into the darkness after a few minutes, just like we planned. Tiffany and I took a walk down to the water and wet our feet and whatnot. Then we just laid in the sand and talked for a while. Things were going smoothly until Tiffany pointed out to the ocean. "What is that?" she said. I looked to where she was pointing but didn't see anything. I was laughing at her apparent delusion and got up to go closer to the water in hopes of maybe seeing what she saw. My feet touched the cold water, and that's when I was close enough to see it. There was a long, vertically standing object in the water. I I inched a little closer and saw it move.
So,
I jumped out of the water and ran back to Tiffany. "It's a person," I said quietly to her. It was truly bizarre, the fact that anyone would be in the freezing cold water at this hour. Tiffany wanted to move because she was uncomfortable, and it seemed like whoever it was just watching us. Somehow it just felt like that. So we took a walk further down the beach until we thought we had privacy. We sat back down on the beach with nothing but the sound of the ocean waves in our voices.
Wolverine to watch teenagers.
Tiffany was once again the one to point out something. "Do you hear that?"
She's
she asked
very
me.
observant. Maybe that's why I
I
think
did
she's
kind of
crazy.
hear it. It was like a smaller kind of splashing sound, but it stopped just as soon as it started. We looked out to the ocean, and I heard Tiffany gasp. The guy was out there again. I was going to go out there and tell him to back off, but Tiffany told me, "Let's just go."
Yeah, why would you go out there?
Low-key, I was hoping she would. I just wanted to look tough in front of her. We got back to the car. CJ and Gianna weren't back
Get your
yet.
ass stabbed.
Suddenly, my phone started blowing up with texts, all from CJ. Apparently, he'd been texting me in some kind of panic the whole time we were on the beach, and I guess I didn't have reception out by the water. He texted me first saying, "Dude, some weird guy is in the water watching us." And then, "Yo, some weird deformed-looking guy is stalking us. Get to the car now." 5 minutes later, he sent a couple other texts, basically panicking over being followed by something in the dark. Keyword something, not someone, something. His second to last text said he was coming to look for us and to answer when I got this. His last text was, "We're on our way back to the car now, get there." He also tried calling me 3 times apparently.
Damn.
I called him back at once and he picked up right away out of breath, not even letting me speak. All he asked was if we were at the car, and I said yes. He said, "Good, stay right there," and hung up the phone. Less than 30 seconds later, Gianna and CJ came out of the surrounding darkness next to the Jeep. He explained the best he could while trying to catch his breath that some deformed-looking creature walking on 2 legs was following them. I didn't know whether to laugh at what he said or not. I told him about how we saw someone in the water too. He asked me to describe what it looked like. I kept getting confused by his way of describing the person, as if they were a creature. I told him it looked like a really tall, lanky person standing in the water. He said he got a chance to get a closer look at it, and it was some kind of deformed humanoid thing. Tiffany and I looked at each other, and now
Fucking
we kind of
alien.
nervously laughed. What he was saying was just too bizarre, but I think parts of both of us took him seriously. Gianna vouched for what he was saying. That scream made us all jump into the car. It was some kind of half-human, half-demonic kind of screaming. I can't describe it. You just have to hear it.
If human have them.
Needless to say, we were all frantic in the car,
Do you know what a
asking
demon
CJ
sounds
questions mainly. But closer to the end of the ride, we all grew silent. I guess we were all just lost in our thoughts about what just happened. To give you an idea of how quickly all this happened, we were on the dunes for about half an hour. After I heard that sound, that scream, I did start to believe CJ partially, but I still feel like what I saw in the ocean was a person. But CJ's way of describing who, or what was following him as some kind of deformed humanoid thing on the beach is what still
Yeah,
freaks
how
me
would
out
it
the
be in
most.
2 places at once? 'Cause he said he missed a bunch of texts and calls. That would mean he had to move away from you and to the other side of the beach in the water to where they're at.
Our old town in Florida was right by a bunch of different beaches. My sisters and I would frequently go to the beach during the sunset hours because less people were there and the views were always beautiful. Sometimes we'd play volleyball, sometimes we'd go in the water, and sometimes we'd just lay in the sand. My youngest sister, Ksenia, who was 13 years old, wanted to go in the water one night. The sun was setting and it was getting dark out, so as the older brother and basically the supervisor, I told her to be back in 10 minutes. She ran into the water, and after watching her for about a minute, I looked down at my phone. My other sister, who was 16 years old, wanted to play volleyball. I was up for it. There was a volleyball net and a poorly inflated volleyball sitting next to it. It was good enough, though. We made do with it. When I looked away from the volleyball net, I couldn't see Ksenia. I looked every possible direction she could have gone in the water. I did not see her. It was getting darker and harder to see. I ran to the water to try and find Ksenia. I ran into the water, and when I couldn't run anymore, I swam. She wasn't in the water anywhere, though. But I saw a boat nearby. A big, luxurious boat, close enough to swim over to. It took me a couple minutes, but I got there. I hoisted myself up onto the bow, off some tiny step ladder, and I heard laughing below deck. There was a hatch door that was opened, and there were lights on down there. I called out for help. Then there was silence. I called out that I was looking for my sister. Then I heard Ksenia's voice from below the deck. She called out my name. I hurried down the stairs into the cabin to see Ksenia sitting on a bed with a Coke in her hand. Further down the cabin were two grown-ass men sitting opposite each other, looking at me. I grabbed Ksenia into my arms, and one of the men said with a smile that I have a very nice sister. The other man seemed to catch on to my suspicion right away and claimed that the two of them were just offering to give her a ride and some snacks because they saw her all alone in the water. I didn't even say a word to them. One of them asked if we needed a ride back to shore. I didn't answer. I told Ksenia to swim back to the beach with me. We got back to shore in a couple minutes, and the boat was far gone into the sunset.
Yeah,
I brought my two sisters home and had my dad figure out what he should do. First of all, he was mad at me for not getting details of the boat or the men's faces, and he was right. My dad punished Ksenia and prohibited her from going to the beach past sunrise from there on out.
Past sunrise, you mean sunset?
I have a beach house in Florida that I tend to visit with my girlfriend in the colder months up north. In the warmer months, we'd still visit occasionally, but nowhere near as much since there wasn't as much of a need to. It was early February, freezing up in Connecticut, so my girlfriend and I took a trip down to Florida to visit the beach house. By the time we actually got to the house after the day-and-a-half drive, it was starting to get dark out.
It's rich people.
It was actually a
It's
long
cold
month
up
and a
here
half
where
since
we
I'd been
live.
there
Let's go
last
down
at
to
the
the
time.
beach house in Florida.
The electricity, the water, and everything was already on since it was wintertime, and I kept everything on during the winter season due to our frequent visits. So all we had to do when we arrived to the house was unpack, take a couple lounge chairs, and walk 20 seconds onto the beach and take a nap. We didn't even check out any of the other rooms because we were so drained. We lounged on the beach until it got really dark. Then my girlfriend tapped my shoulder. I looked up at her, and she asked if I left that light on. I turned to the house and saw one of the upstairs lights on. Not just that, but at one of the windows in that room, there was a shadow outline behind the partially opened curtains. I looked at my girlfriend, and she looked at me, and I think it sunk into both of us that someone was in that room at that window.
Jerking off.
I told her to wait there. I ran to the house as fast as I could. When I got to the back doors, when I started being quiet, I slid it open and shut quietly.
Why would you go in there?
And being that I was barefoot made tiptoeing a bit easier.
Call the police.
I made it to the stairway and then halfway out the stairs before I heard a door shut upstairs. I went up the remaining stairs a bit quicker now and saw that the door to the room that had the light on was open, but the lights were off now. I went into the room which had the light on not even 2 minutes ago. I kept the light off though. Instead, I just used the flashlight which I had on the shelf ledge upstairs. Then I remembered the closet door. It was shut. That must have been the door I heard close, I figured. I shut off the flashlight as I tiptoed to the door of the closet and slowly put my ear up to it to listen. There was nothing but silence in the room and on the other side of the closet door. I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I opened that door, if someone was in fact on the other side, but I had to confront this. I grabbed the two little knobs and finally brought myself to yank the doors open, but it was empty in there, or at least from what I could tell, it was dark.
Oh, you?
I grabbed my flashlight and switched it on.
You had a flashlight?
Yep, the closet was empty, but a creak in the floorboards outside of the room caught my attention. I ran into the hall expecting to see the intruder, but no, it was just my girlfriend. I got mad at her for coming into the house, even though I told her to stay put. But now that she was there, I told her to help search the upstairs. We looked around in all 3 bedrooms upstairs, all the closets, and the bathroom, but there was no one. Then we checked the downstairs. Every room, every closet. No one. We had to figure that whoever was in the house somehow escaped, so we locked all the doors and looked around the house for any signs of breaking and entering or stolen items. But there was neither of that. So we brushed up and went to bed since we were exhausted. However, that night before we could even fall asleep, there was a click under our bed. I asked my girlfriend if she could hear that. She said yes. I got out from under the bed and got down on my knees. When my face got to the ground level, giving me a view under the bed, I could see the intruder laying under our bed. I looked at him face to face before he crawled out and made a break for the front door. I couldn't catch him once he got outside because I was still barefoot. I also didn't get a very good look at his face because we only looked at each other for about a second. We once again searched the whole house to see what he could have stolen, but surprisingly, nothing was stolen. We couldn't even figure out how he broke in.
He about to steal your soul.
He didn't call the cops. We simply moved on and did our best to enjoy the rest of our vacation.
You didn't check underneath the beds? If I know that there's enough space for a human being to hide underneath the bed, check underneath the beds. You check the attic, you check the perimeter outside, you check the basement. If I see somebody, if I'm at my house and I see somebody, like a figure, like a person standing, and there's a light on in the room, and I know that no one should be in that house, I am going to call the police. I'm not going to go in, and I'm going to check when I know. I don't care if I have a gun. I'm not going in there because I don't know how many people are in there. I don't know if the man has a knife. I don't know exactly what he said because, like, to me, if I'm like, if I can see them, they can see me. Especially if it's like, well, I guess it depends on if it's dark outside and like I look out my window, I might not be able to see a person, especially if the light's on in the house. It'd be hard for me to see them unless it's a light behind them or something like that, or they go underneath like a street light or something. But to me, if it's a certain time of day, I'm like, I know that if they can see me, if I can see them, they can probably see me. And I'm not going in the house and making noise because now they know I'm in the house, so they're prepared. I don't know where they're at, but they know that if they're in the room, that he has to come in this room, and I'm stabbing him in the damn stomach when he comes in. They're like, no, you don't. I'm like, call the police. Let them go and do it. That's their job. Like, you don't, unless you are in the house already and someone breaks in, that's different. Because now like I said, now the roles are reversed. Like, you can stand in your room with your gun on the door. Seconds to open the door, pow! As long as you're looking, and I would hesitate probably for a second too when the door opens. That way you don't accidentally shoot somebody that lives there. But like I said, now it's reversed. See, if when it's the other guy, he can wait in the room. As soon as you open the door, he can hide behind the door or in a closet. Can hear you walk into the room. Can pretty much pinpoint where you're at. Come out of the closet with a knife, you just start shanking you. And I'm like, please. But yes, I am a white woman. Like, no. Like that shit he did was stupid. That was stupid. I'm gonna go in there and check. Like, no. You don't know. Well, luckily this person was a coward and just ran out the house. But if this person was an aggressor who was there to rob them, because he said he didn't take anything, so he was there to rob them and decided that, I'm just gonna stab these people. Now he could have been waiting for them to go to sleep, and then when he had found out, he just ran out the house and didn't get to do whatever he wanted to do. But or maybe he was in there robbing them, and then when they came to the house, they went in, and he's I'm gonna hide out and then leave when they go to sleep or something like that, maybe. But I guess stupid. You not run after a guy like what if that dude did happen? You go try to chase him out the house, he just turned around and go, bah! Now look at you, Mr. Super Bad, Mr. Superhero, Mr. Badass. Now you shot in the chest or something, laying out in front of your house because you had to be fucking Batman or Punisher or some shit, trying to go chasing out people. People always, they want to be a hero until they get shot or stabbed. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed my reaction. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to comment down below, hit that bell so you're notified when I upload videos. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I may put a picture, maybe this is when I do it as a subscribe. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. And also post this on your various different social media platforms and get the word out. The channel. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.